Hello everybody and welcome to a new live stream here on Sunday evening, 22nd of October 2017, in case you watch this video much later. We're going to talk tonight about Beethoven. It has been a while since we've talked the last time about the great master. And we are going to address some, I think that's very difficult for me, but I guess for you as well, to decide what is the tempo, not for the fast movements, but for a very slow movement. What are the factors to consider or that can indicate a kind of framework where you can have a kind of feeling from this is a kind of range where I should find my right quote-unquote tempo. So that's what we are going to talk about. If you're new here to the channel, in case you are new here to the channel, this channel is all about exploring the music from Bach to Beethoven and beyond. And we do that through sharing my performances and also some aspects of research, and hopefully, of course, to inspire you as a musician as a listener. And if that's the case, would love to have you subscribe to the channel and join the Authentic Sound community. So, and before we start with the Beethoven, really dive into that music, beautiful sonata, opus 10, number 1, that's the C minor sonata. Number 5, so the 5th piano sonata, is also called the Little Pathétique. I don't know exactly why, because the Pathétique is also not such a big sonata, but it's both C minor, I guess. Before diving into that, I would love to thank all and to take a moment to thank also my patrons on patreon.com. As always, these workshops, these masterclasses are kind of sponsored by them. If you're not familiar with Patreon, there is a link in the description box. That's basically a website where you can support the things we are doing, even for 1 cup of coffee a month, and you make a huge difference. There's a small community there that's growing, and it's really fascinating and also mind-blowing to see how people step forward and support the projects that we are heading for to do, and there are exciting things to come. So that's between brackets. And after this introduction, I think we can dive into the music. Just have a look at the chat that's working now. Last time it wasn't working. And just skip this to the left side of my computer screen. We have Katsuhiro here. Good afternoon. It's here evening. Okay, great. Then we have Alexei. Then there is, it's difficult to read the name, right? Uli. I mispronounced that, certainly. And Martin Eslava. Great to have you all here. And probably people will tune in later as well. So, I must say up front, for this Beethoven Sonata is, of course, I know the music, certainly the first and the last movement, but I've never played that music. And the middle movement, honestly, is the kind of I'm unfamiliar with. I'm not listening to Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn recordings often. Also, you'll not find very soon one of those composers on the series that I've introduced on my vinyl collection, since it has to do with tempo things. It's difficult for me to listen to the mainstream performances where these pieces are played fast in a tempo that my brain simply cannot follow, and I feel disconnected with that sometimes. Of course, if it is a really great performance, then it's okay, but for Bach, it's easier for me to listen to, for instance, Glenn Gould in very fast tempi. If it's clear, if his performance is I can understand what he's doing, it's fine. But for this later music, I have sometimes difficulty. So for this middle section, it's kind of new music for me. And I'm also playing that very fresh for you. So today's workshop, masterclass, I wouldn't call it masterclass because I do not master this sonata yet. Is a kind of practicing session where I take you in to my musical kitchen, so to say, and share with you the way I deal with these issues that I was talking about at the beginning of this stream. How to come up with something, a kind of framework, a kind of lower end and higher end to set your tempo feel in between. And of course, that's different to everybody. We will talk, of course, also on metronome numbers a little bit later, and if you're not dealing with that, or if you decide not to deal with metronome numbers, that's fine. And of course, you have different kind of perceptions and different kind of approaches. That's all fine. But once there is a moment where, as a musician, you have to decide what's the tempo range in which I'm going to elaborate on my performance, because that's what you have to do. What we're going to do today is very, very rough decision making. Sometimes it doesn't work musically yet, but if there is a bell ringing somewhere in your head, say, well, I can make something out of it. I need to adjust the timing. I need to adjust a little bit of my touch. Maybe this or small things can do great changes in music. And if that's the case, then you set your compass 100% for that direction, and then you stay within that. For slow movements, it's the other difficult thing is that if you have a slow pulse, it's sometimes difficult to maintain that, because note values, certainly in this piece, I'm going to talk about that, are very much different. If you have quarter notes, if you have 8 notes, 16th notes, often composers like Beethoven elaborate that and go beyond even 16th, go to 30 seconds, and here is going to even 14 notes per 8 notes. So you have a huge range, a broad range of note values, and those you have to fit all of that in that tempo range. And if you choose a kind of pulse, you have to fit it within that one pulse that you have chosen, which is difficult. And for these slow movements, I often use my metronome just to check if I'm not speeding up or slowing down. The latter is not often the case, of course. If you have decided upon a pulse that is rather slow, the chances are big that you will speed up, and me myself in the first place, and that's very normal and that's very natural. It takes a long time before you have an overview. It's kind of like you have different windows where you can see all the note values, all the different passages when you start the piece, and that's of course at that moment the piece is ready to perform. But so again, that is not the case tonight. This is all very rough material. Hi Nikos, see you in the chat. And okay, I'm going to leave the chat a little bit now. If is something really coming up, I will check from time to time. If something is coming up, Anya will give me a sign. Okay, so if you are not familiar with this sonata, I'll show you the beginning on the webcam. Hope you see that. Yeah. So it's the middle section of the C minor sonata. That's this one. We can say a lot of things about the first movement as well. I'm not going to do that. And the last movement is, of course, and the tempo choices here, they're already ready, so it's not a mistake. I think that works fine. The middle section, however, that's another thing. And so this section, I show you again. That's what I wanted to show you. At the beginning, you have quarter notes. And if you see at the bottom of the page what the contrast there. So from the first bar here, yeah, here it is. So from the first bar here until the bottom of the page, you have to find something that works for both. It's not an option for me, and I don't think in this style of music to slow down at that particular moment. You can do that maybe a little bit later if you go to music of Chopin, but even there Chopin was known to have a very rigid attitude on keeping tempo. So if you only would look to the beginning, and see Adagio Molto, Adagio, what's the meaning of Adagio Molto? It's very much Adagio, but what's Adagio? It has, of course, the Italian meaning of slow, of kind of peaceful. But in perspective with notation, there's a slowing down of the tempo ordinario, which is in a normal common time around the second. So 4/4 bar structure, 16th notes, 2 heavy harmonies, a bar maximum. then you can say is about 60. That's the moderato tempo, that's the allegro moderato tempo. In Bach's time you will not find anything above that, that's just the normal tempo. Adagio, of course, is slower and is even much slower. And if the harmony is very dense, and if the note values are accessing the 16ths a lot, then the tempo is slowing down even more. So here we have Adagio molto, but the beginning is very open. So if I play it like this on its own, that's fine. Here we come for first time an ornament, a written out kind of improvisation figure that leaves us a little bit with problems, because there are a lot of notes to fit in the tempo that I have chosen now at the beginning. But you could say, well, that's the end of the phrase, you can slow down a little bit. It's a little bit of ending of the phrase and starting the repeat of the theme, which has now 16th notes. Or you could say, by applying the same tempo, that it is rather fast for an adagio. And of course you can debate until the late hours on this, what is an adagio feel, but this 16 note movement they are fast to consider the fact that it is an adagio. Adagio is not standing still, but is slow, and this is not slow. It's more an andante con molto. But if we go down the page to the problematic bars with the over the 64th notes, so 12 notes per 8 note, and then here we have even 14. There is a certain limit on what you can do there, and moreover, the way that Beethoven places these ornaments, because it's kind of ornament, it's awkward on the keyboard. It's E flat major at that position at that moment, so you have to jump here to. Of course, you can practice really long time to accelerate a little bit, but and on the clavichord, I must say, if you compare the clavichord with certainly with a modern piano, on a modern piano you would just touch the sustaining pedal a little bit and glide a little bit over the notes, just so you will certainly increase the speed of those notes on the piano. And also on the Viennese piano, the action is very light. You have a benefit on it, and here you can see that this music is written for the pianoforte and not anymore for the clavichord. Having said that, the differences are not very large and are not very big. So what I come up with after practicing this a little bit now with you can be a little bit faster on the pianoforte, but we see. So I've prepared, of course, a little bit, not too much, to give you an impression. This is, you see, if I go a little bit faster, I have difficulties with ending all the notes in the right way, and then the clavichord says no. And moreover, it sounds a little bit aggressive then. for me this is a kind of limit, and I would say if I would play on a pianoforte, by the way there will be an update on Wednesday on the pianoforte. I was this week at Joris Potvlieger's workshop for 2 days. We had several meetings and the piano of course was standing there, and literally my heart was bouncing like this. It's not finished, but you see the instrument coming to its end phase. But that's for Wednesday, I believe. If not Wednesday, after this Wednesday, have to see. So, but this is a kind of limit in speed, and on the piano, this might work even a little bit faster. But if you, because the technique is easier, but if you exceed this tempo very much, then you will suddenly feel a little bit of anxiety, which might work well, but it shouldn't sound stressy. And this is rather fast. In a figure like this, so you have 16th dotted note 32nd and dotted 16th, so dotted 16th 32nd. You need also a little bit of time. Okay. So I think I have found with this passage a kind of limit, certainly on my clavichord, in tempo that I shouldn't want to exceed, because if I would practice light years on this passage, it would go a little bit better than this, but I would not gain 20%. That's not possible. So let's take this as a beginning. So this has nothing to do with character. Yeah, a little bit, because I find even now that this passage is taking out of this very rural, calm character that the piece should have. But anyway, technically this is a kind of limit now. So we have a tempo that is like John. Okay, let's see this as a kind of first step, as a kind of limit, and apply that to the beginning. We now the fun begins. So you have this tempo, and often you will see I do make the mistake of switching between 8 notes, 16th quarter notes. So we must be very aware that these are the 8 notes now. So let's start now the beginning again. Now we have this tempo. And check again if I'm not speeding up. Maybe a little bit slower. And don't mind the wrong notes. I'm not mind them as either, because it's not important now. You should, if you play this and practice this like we're doing now very roughly, have the feeling, oh, I can do that when I practice just a little bit more. But now it's just the overall feeling. Difficult to maintain this tempo so slow in these beginning passages with long notes. So the 8th note definitely becomes the structure where you're counting. Let's keep this tempo, and before we measure that on the metronome, let's try the 16th notes. So the 16th notes becomes like... Okay, so and it's just see, look in the chat if you're not too shocked with this tempo. I think it's okay. What surprises me then always, and in these slow movements, and you will know that with the tempo research that I'm doing now with Lorenz Gradient, and we will talk about it in a minute. It's important, but it's not important now, and it's never guiding me in a way that I take a metronome number and see what in this double beat understanding it means and then apply it anyway. I will always come from within my personal understanding of the music to a kind of, like as I said, kind of framework of tempi, and then when I find my balance, so to say, then I check the metronome numbers. And the slow movements for years were a problem for me because it was hard to understand how these pieces, they become very slow. That could be played and could be meant like that. But there is, as I understand now in the 2 years that I'm working now with Lorenz, and we intensify now our collaboration on that, there is nothing to be found that there is a kind of variable use of metronome use as for instance Telsma was advocating in the 80s. I mean, understandably so, but there is nothing. So it's either single, it's either double beat. And I'm saying this because in many pieces, like for instance the Beethoven Pathétique on my channel, which is still the most watched video of all, although the Bach partitas are catching up really, really fast. But there, the middle section, it's almost single beat, that tempo. I couldn't just imagine that to be slower than that. But there are other movements, like for instance in the Mozart D major, and I cannot play it now by memory because I can't hear it now at the moment. But there you have the section, the Adagio section in the last of the 6 Munich sonatas. It's also on the channel. There you have the variations in the Adagio, and there it's for me the first time that absolutely there was no other way of doing that in double beat. To my surprise, it felt so natural. And here, it's a little bit the same thing. We're going to talk about the metronome numbers in a bit. So this feeling, this Adagio feeling, what that exactly means is very strange, because here it feels very natural, and we are playing almost, check the metronome, in double beat now. But check my tempo, again here the fast note. It's this tempo. So, what do we have? Almost exact. So I'm now at 36 for the 8th note. And of course, if you play this with the metronome, it sounds rather dull, because you need to work with a little bit of ending of phrases, and that makes a huge difference. But that's what my feeling is now, if I play this again, that the beginning is that the character, and then now starts the idea on character, on affect, on mood, on emotion in the music. What's the piece about? What the story that you want to tell? I see now these early 19th century landscapes. So the return to the nature, Goethe, eternal peace, so to say. You can out of the city, all nature, and this is without stress, without wanting to go forward, not pushing. It's just enjoying, really enjoying the moment. That's this kind of feeling that I'm feeling now. Yeah, and that's the point I wanted to make with the metronome, that if you start to apply that or start to come into certain zones where after checking you are in this double beat zone, so to say, and it's not about one tick faster or slower. That's of course not. Basically what we are doing now is taking the 8th note as a counting structure, as a basic notation, and maybe even a little bit the 16th note. You could count in 16th notes, but it becomes difficult because you have triplets and 16ths. But if you do that, you come across notational things that actually becomes clear in this tempo. Like for instance here, you have an 8th note, double dotted 8th note with the 32nd note. Which works great in this tempo. And if you go further, you will see also 32nd notes. Like for instance here, I can show you that. A 32nd note, where it is, here it is. Hope you see that. I put my finger underneath. Yeah, there. So a trill on the 32nd note doesn't point to a tempo where you count in quarter notes. It's way too fast. Not saying that if you see a trill on a 32nd note that you have to count in 8 notes, or just as in a tempo as we are doing now. But this is not a single case, you have it several times. Okay, of course when we then come in this tempo to the 16th notes, then there's no problem. This ornament works better than in the faster tempo. So until now everything okay. Let's check the tempo. Check. When I was doing this the first time, I was saying here, well, this is very slow. And then I thought, yeah, Adagio molto. And there's a connection there. It could have written Adagio, which might have been something like an Adagio molto. You hear the difference? It's not big, but there's a difference. And that's one thing that's for me important, and I share it with you, that when small changes become big changes in reality, so small changes in your performance, a little bit tempo difference, a little bit articulation, a little bit phrasing, a very small bit of rubato. When that becomes very big in the performance, then for me, I have always the feeling that I'm on the right track, because the closer you are to the point where everything is balanced, the bigger the differences are if you differentiate a little bit. And also the bigger the difference is that you miss that point of balance and then it's over. So going faster is always the easiest thing to do. Not saying that you cannot play fast or you should never play fast, but increasing the tempo is for me the last thing to do to find depth and understanding of the music. Sometimes necessary. You can choose a tempo that is too slow. For sure you can. And that's the reason why I chose this Adagio Molto as a lead for this live stream, because Adagio Molto is almost the slowest that you can get. You have Largo and maybe even Grave, but it's all in this very basement kind of tempo feel, very slow. So how slow can you go then? Without having the feeling that everything stands still and there is no construction, there is no meaning and no connection anymore, because that's the main thing. You should keep that always. It becomes difficult in this tempo. Just a little bit louder and now going back. Only by applying a little bit of rubato, a little bit of crescendo and decrescendo here, I make the difference. Also here, 32nd note with the Volksschlag. I have time to do that, so confirmation of this tempo feel for me until now. Let's check if we are still okay. We might even have slowed down. Let's have this in 72, which is a little bit easier. So the 16 notes. It's about okay. So I slowed down a little bit, which is a good sign. For me now, I have the feeling that this is okay. This is working. It's not grotesque. It's not out of all proportions. So in the chat, just say a quick hello to Mikael, DCT555, Marco, John, Ashton. Nice to have you here. Check out Ashton's YouTube channel as well. He's a wonderful composer. My Aunt Rita is here. Daniel. Great. So we're talking about the middle section of the Beethoven Fifth Sonata, and we're finding our tempo spot. And we started, if you just checked in the live stream, with these fast passages here. There is a kind of limit there. And again, you can practice light years and you will increase that speed, and you can of course shift to the modern piano and you can play it even faster. The Viennese piano will let you do that as well, but there is not a very big margin there. And overall there's a kind of effect of feeling that you should maintain there. Okay, so far so good. Then we come to passages that I believe work also well in this tempo. So we end here like this. Check the tempo again. So 16 notes now. Contrast. Thirty-second note. If you have a note like this, that's 30-second note. That means a very slow pulse in this kind of music, because it's piano. If this is fortissimo with an accent, then I can imagine a faster pulse. But now you need to have, this is piano, this is not a very aggressive move. This is in the closing of this. Question mark? Answer. New question? Here also. And again, these timings, I have to work on that. Again, it's very rough. I'm just almost sight reading with you, so sharing this process of coming to a balance with you here. So here we come, and then the interesting thing starts. Let's check the tempo again. That I do often in these slow movements, not to fool myself. Once, that I have to say, once of course you have this overview of all different note values of the piece, different harmonies, different structures, that you can almost feel from the moment when you play the first note, of course, then you get rid of the metronome forever, because then the piece needs to develop. You need to slow down sometimes, a little bit faster sometimes, and then you get this proportions, you work on the connections, you work on the finishing touch of the piece, which is the most important thing to do. But the foundation should be this pulse. And now we are still in the phase of looking around, so to say. So now it's 16 notes. So Beethoven is indicating also these bows. Again, one of those passages where I say, well, you might want to count in 16ths even, because you have an accent on the wrong part of the bar, of course, because it's upbeat, but he gives an accent on the ta. And now everything stands still. So we're going to work on this, but these bars like this, if it wasn't for the faster notes that will come a few bars here with the same left hand, those bars would make me doubt about the application of, and now if we connect to the metronome numbers, they're in double beat. And certainly a few years ago, certainly at the time when I recorded the Pathétique in the Emperor Hall there, in one of the first videos on YouTube I made, I would say, no, that's not possible. And then you skip, and then you return to a kind of mainstream performance, which is safe, and everybody will like that because everybody knows that, and we often like what we know. And certainly if you're not certain as a performer, you should not do it because it will not work. You should not change that. You should be very certain and know what you're talking about, in the sense what the story is that you want to share. That should be very strong, and the stronger if you are deviating from what's kind of mainstream accepted performance. But if you give it a chance, just think about it, then sometimes a world opens, and here you're forced with these fast notes to do something about this passage, because it's within the structure of the music. Actually, there is a kind of tempo limit, and nowadays I look to this very different. Again, standing still in music is something you should avoid all the time. Music is movement, but a movement can go very slow, and as long as you as a performer still feel this kind of circular movement, we've been talking on that for a long time, so it goes up, you have a bounce like a football, it goes up, it gets a point of zero energy, and then it falls back, gets its energy again from falling down to the bottom, and then it gets a pulse again. You can slow down that feeling as much as you want, but it should always be moving. So also here, suddenly after these 16th notes, it has a feeling of standing still. But then it's about the timing. It's about finding what is Beethoven want to say, what is he want to share with us. And for me, if I think about this passage is about this kind of very far horizon line where there is nothing of disturbance. And that left hand pulse should be as accurate as possible. Again, faster is very easy because your margins become much wider. But in this, on that point, missing one note in the left hand and the whole piece is destroyed. On the other hand, having all those notes exactly spot on, and yeah, there is a kind of emotion that is, I believe today, very seldomly heard in music. We avoid that kind of places where we can stand still and not really stand still, but are very quiet and very calm. And that's for me the drive to share that with you, because once you've felt that, it's enormous. It's really powerful. So we come from the 16th notes here. Check the tempo again. Now come the very fast notes. So also here, first time I've played this, I said, oh my god, this is slow, this is falling completely. I cannot do anything with it because you have this G, you have a chord on the left hand, it's being repeated. There is no 16 note, there's no movement. What can you do about that? You need so much suggestion in those rests here. That's almost impossible to do. And I said to myself, I must find something. And it's not, I did not come to a point where I say, well, I can perform this for you in a way that you will feel this kind of increased tension, because there you have a tension that's being built up by Beethoven. But I believe that I know how to proceed with it. It's right hand, left hand. The left hand is participating here very strongly. And if you have a little bit of patience, there is a kind of grandeur, a kind of big moment that comes out of this. So you have this fast note, we do it again. Something like this. Difficult shift to 30 to 16 triplet. So the atmosphere of the piece, the mood, the effect, it feels very right to me. And the only thing I need to do is to figure out how to balance all the things out. And I think I will keep this kind of movement as a basis to work out. And it's so strangely enough, if you play this piece, then it's not the beginning or the last movement that you should be nervous about. It's the middle section, because you know, if you miss there something, certainly on a clavichord, because the piano has longer notes and Beethoven for sure works with that. So if you miss something, it's over. I mean, people are, you start hearing the people sitting on the chair, moving on the chair, coughing, and then here you're only in the middle of the piece. You have to do it all again. And so keeping this tension is extremely difficult. But that's of course what you should enjoy if you want to be a performer, to take that risk, to dance on that thin line on 2 kilometers high without a safety net. That's what we should do. If you do that and you come to the other side, people will be having a moment that they don't forget in their entire life. If you lower that rope and make it very thick and have a safety net, and there's, of course, then there's much less to enjoy, because even if you fall, the safety net will be there. You know what I mean. Then there is a last thing that's difficult here in this piece, that is the ending. And just again check my tempo, 16th notes. And this is 72. I've been practicing this piece a few times this week. I have also had a tempo around 80 for the 16th note, but of course that's 72, 80, that's a margin. There's a difference in effect. The piece changes, but that's something you have to find out what works best, and for that you need time. So that's now my tempo. Then we come to the end section, which is really long, and of course without what was before, you don't have now this feeling of heaviness, of importance, of seriousness that was before. And you should think about that when we play the last piece, last section, because that's actually a kind of that's difficult to say for me what the feeling is that I have there. But you need this passage to calm down again, to get rid of all the emotions, and to really become one with yourself, one with nature. That's of course the time where Beethoven lived in, was in nature. Let's try. So yeah, it leaves a kind of feeling that's really unique actually. Also the last two lines, I think, well, it's long. But you have to figure out how just to accelerate a little bit, come back, very tiny things. But passages like this worked very well, I think, now. Like here. You have the soprano, alt, a tenor. There's this kind of refinement that is really unique then. Perfect, I think. So, yeah, then coming to the tempo again, on the metronome number, and I know many people find it very boring talk because we all hate the metronome, don't we? And certainly if you happen to have some of those piano teachers who just have the thing ticking all the time to make you play faster and faster, then of course it's a very annoying device. But for me, it has a magic, because those metronomes, those were ticking on the pianos of Beethoven and Czerny and Moscheles. You cannot repeat that enough. We should visualize this. And then you say, I sometimes say, oh my God, how is it possible that people also in this historically informed performance practice are not at all interested in that? Sometimes you read something about it, but that's actually doesn't make sense, because if you, not about metronome numbers now, but you know what I have to say about this. Not going to depth here. I was checking this middle section 20 minutes before the live stream started and see how great pianists are playing this. So like Daniel Berenbaum, I came on YouTube to a performance, and to my surprise he played it in around 50-48 notes, which is of course faster than the 36 that I would interpret it, the Moscheles and Czerny metronome. They are both the same, by the way, metronome numbers in, but it's not so much faster. And I said, how is that possible? Because if you have the literal interpretation of the metronome number, that's 72. Again, both Czerny and Moscheles. So sometimes you hear people say, well, they just gave some numbers and it was all individual and it was just as fast as possible. That's of course nonsense. Because if you just dive into that 1 hour, you will know that it's not true. The people were very serious about that. And then you have the Beethoven edition and you have a Czerny edition, a Moscheles edition and Czerny edition, made simultaneously almost in 2 different countries. Moscheles lived in Great Britain at the time, in England, and Czerny obviously in Vienna. And so many of, if not 95% of those metronomes are really in the same range. Also here. So Czerny gives 69 and another edition 72, and Moscheles gives 72. And if we would apply that literally, it sounds like this. Oh, tapped the wrong note thing. Again, 72. That's for the 8th note if we apply this literally. So let's just try. Maybe we have it. And then 16 notes. Again. And then here, of course. And then I can play that. Of course, that's not possible. But if I hear then Daniel Berenbaum, it plays it very beautiful, by the way. In 50-48 notes, I say, why not then single beat if the double beat is nonsense? Because many of those pianists have said that. There is a story that I won't say names, but those people are asked questions, of course, sometimes about this, and they go, whoa, it's crazy. But they say, yeah, if it's crazy here, you can play it 72 slow down a little bit here in the fast notes and you can play this Adagio section in 72, but why are you not doing that? It's Genius, Motionless, and then it's interesting. It's interesting. So 50 still is the tempo that Berenbohm applies is still in the range of what we are doing now. Of course, I'm slowing down if I would follow Motionless literally, still a little bit, but if I would choose my tempo that I came up with this week, 40 for the 8th note, that's not so much different. So interesting to think about is that single beat, double beat discussion to end this video with. Again, that was not the main topic of the video. The main topic of the video was finding your balance from within the notation, what we did. But of course, it's too interesting not to consider the information that those people gave us. But if people say, well, the discussion about double beat is nonsense, single beat is the only thing that you should go for, then there's the question asked why people are not playing in single beat. Sometimes because it's not possible. Let's say 60% of the metronomes are not possible by no man on this planet. Even not Glenn Gould succeeded in that. But the ones that are possible, why is that not applied? And that's interesting just to think about that. Again, oh, it's almost 10 o'clock. Well, I'm talking for 1 hour. Great. Andy's in the chat as well, I see. Okay. If there is something on your mind, I'm just looking to Anya if I missed something really important. Okay, then I think we can close this session. This Beethoven Sonata will come on the channel when I feel that the middle section is okay. It can go fast, but it can take a while as well. Next on the channel will be tomorrow. We'll have another Wohltemperiertes Klavier, the E minor. Then on Wednesday, again, I have to think, I'm preparing one episode for Emanuel Bach, so CPE Bach in pieces. If I'm not ready with that, I give you the update on the pianoforte. On Friday, you will have another piece of my vinyl collection, don't know which one. I have several interesting records now, and also brought some from Joris Potliger's place. And then next week, so not the coming week, but the week after, we are, this holiday here, school holiday, and we are on holiday. As usual, there's a ritual almost to go to Zuiderhoog, which is in the north of Holland. There is nothing there but a swimming pool, and yeah, that's actually everything there is. But it's we enjoy it very much with the four of us, just to be there with our family, have some time together. And I don't know what I'm going to upload then upfront, but that's a surprise. And I don't know if we will have a live stream this week for recording session on Thursday. We had one last Wednesday, and we would skip another scheduled one because we are on holiday, but you'll see on the channel. Okay.
Martin said?
Yeah, I see it. Martin said, not related to this, but I would like to know if Wim found an email from me to him. No, I didn't. Or I don't remember anymore. I'm looking to my wife and manager and business partner and everything. I sent it again, Martin. So, no, I don't have it. I don't recall a mail from you. So just send it again and I will look at it. You'll find my email still on the website because we're messing around with the website now.
Maybe I should take the normal.
Yeah. Just try it again. If not, just leave a comment on one of the videos and I will read it and I will send you then privately my email address. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked it. Not too much shocking news here on the Beethoven middle section, and looking forward to recording this for you, as I do always. It's a privilege to share all of this with you. Okay, I will see you tomorrow again, virtually with the Bach E minor. Hope you like that. And then the thing I rest me to do is wish you a very good night or day, depending on the place where you live on our planet. And See you very soon again. Bye.